I'd like to share with you my orchard. This is kind of my baby. Mrs. Wranglerstar really likes to work in the garden. Gardening is not really my interest, but I love working in the orchard and doing my grapes and such. And this is what we did yesterday. So this is all enclosed with an 8-foot fence. It's about 150 by 100, all fenced in. And that right there is the original homesteader barn. That building is well over 100 years old and was the original barn. You can see there to the right was the small barn, and then in addition to there, it's quite a charming and quaint little building. I really enjoy it. So what I've got here is last year I put in all of these Concord grapes here. There's my trellis, and so we've got all these mulched. A lot of these didn't survive, only about half of them, but they were little tiny ones when we started, and they're coming along now, and these are actually starting to bloom and reach up into the trellis. So that whole row down there, over 100 feet or so, is all going to be grapes. So I'm looking forward to getting into making some grape juice and canning that. So these are our fruit trees. These are the first ones we put in. These are all apples all the way down, all different varieties, and some nice cider apples. So we should get plenty of apples this year. Not enough to do all of our canning, but well, a lot of them, but that will all come. So what I've been doing is training these branches, and that's what I did yesterday, and I've been just kind of working them and opening all these up using these stakes and these strings. What you want to do is get as much sun exposure to each branch as possible. This one here is, I read an old book somewhere that guys used to hang rocks, because these branches have a tendency to want to come up, grow up, and kind of they bunch up. So hanging these rocks like this on this, and I use some old fuel line where it comes in contact with the branches so the string doesn't damage it. And then throughout the year, as they grow, I'll just continue to train them down into the shape that I want. I don't want big tall apple trees. I don't want to have to pick apples with a ladder, so I'll keep them trimmed up so we can reach them. They'll have nice big mature apple trees that you can pick from the ground. Here's another one here. They're really doing well. This here part of the tree is called the crotch, and so I cut small sticks and things to continue to slowly spread those, and ultimately over the years those will be trained to the shape that I want. Everything is all fed with a drip irrigation system, which runs from the water tower and the ram pump, so the water doesn't cost us anything. So down here last year we put in peaches. We're zone 3 up here, so it's a pretty harsh environment, pretty alpine, and these are some varieties of peaches that were designed to grow in cold climates like Minnesota. So I'm curious to see how those will do. Peaches here as well. We've got more apples, and we've got some, there's peaches there. These little apples I started from a scion. Scions and rootstock. They were just teeny tiny, and they're really doing well. So it's been fun, really fun watching them. And this is going to be a delightful place just to hang out and to have our apple cider press parties and such. And so we had dinner last night, set our table up. And so what Mrs. Wranglerstar and I were talking about, I'll show you when I was referring to in the previous video about the timber frame cabin. I did have a disaster. It was at my own making here with my top bar beehive. Mrs. Wranglerstar ordered me a package of bees that we're waiting for the call on. And so another project I've got to do is rebuild my top bar beehive, because I did a poor job of putting those legs on. The footprint wasn't wide enough, and we had a pretty severe windstorm, and it blew it over and it broke the top off. So fortunately the damage isn't too bad. It can be easily repaired. I just have to take apart and replace this back board and resecure the hinges and the roofing, and it's pretty minor. So I'm gonna get rid of those legs, and I was gonna do that originally. I just kind of put those on there to get them going because the bees showed up so quick, but I'll make the legs at a much wider footprint so that won't happen again. Fortunately, it happened when we didn't have any bees in there, so lesson learned. Lesson learned. So, the timber frame cabin slash trellis. What I'm thinking is we're going to put it right here. We have these gorgeous big Douglas fir trees here that are growing, and this has just got a nice feel to it. It's like when we come down and have picnics, we always want to be in here because it's shaded by the nice fir trees. But what I think I'll do is I think I'll put the 12 by 16 cabin, nestle it right here in those trees. And you'll have a really nice commanding view to the north of the mountain. And you can also see the pond. So when we have when the pond freezes over and the kids come over and we play broom hockey on the pond, I'll put a gate right in there, and then we can have a fire pit or a stone pizza oven or something in there that'll be kind of a cool place to warm up and to hang out. But man, I've been thinking about this all day and I'm getting excited about it. I think that's going to be a natural for that 12 by 16 right there. So what I think I'll do is I'll pour we'll dig down and we'll put some good concrete pads, 4 pads, and some treated posts. We'll run them up, cut them all flush. It'll be a little high off that side, and build that timber frame. Finally put it together right here. So yeah, that's great. I'm going to be able to do the base section by myself. That will be the sill boards and the decking and the flooring. But the big timbers that go on the top and the roof and all of that, I'm going to need some help with. So if you, well, you know who you are. If you've been out here and you live not too far away and would be interested in coming out for a day, we could have a barn raising and put that together. I would appreciate that because I just can't do it by myself. I don't, the timbers are really big. The big ones on the top are, what are they? They are 6 by 10s or 6 by 12s, and they're 16 feet long and they're super heavy. So if we had some help out here, we could get this thing all stood up and pegged together in one day, and maybe even enjoy a nice dinner or barbecue on it. So just kind of an update of things that all things change, but is kind of where I'm going and what I would like to get going here in the next week or two. So that's it. Just a update on the orchard, and we'll see you guys in the next one. As I was walking back to the house from shooting this orchard video, I grabbed my phone and I was looking. I got a private message that came in from YouTuber. I don't have permission to give his name. we'll just call him Scout. Call him Scout. And I want to share it with you. And there's a reason why that I'll tell you at the end. So he writes, Cody, I would like to ask you to pray for my family and myself. I'm 44 years old with a wife and 2 kids, a girl 13 and a boy 17. I owned my own maintenance business for 2 years, and then I started finding I couldn't find enough work, so I had to close it down. I have found a job that's about 3/4 the pay. I've had a car repossessed, and now the bank was foreclosed on my home and getting a date of sale. I'm going to have to move into my mother-in-law's basement until I can get caught up and find a place to rent. So please pray for my family, my children, and my wife. If you have gone through something like this, some words of encouragement would be nice. I believe that, I'm going to tell you a story. I have a friend that was raised in East Germany. And when she was pretty young, they were able to leave, but she grew up in a communist system. And she was telling a story, or my wife shared a story that she told her the other day, about how her parents had adopted several kids. I think it was 5 or 6 different kids. And one in particular, they had adopted, I may have the ages wrong, but I think it was they had just adopted a 7-year-old. I don't remember if it was a boy or a girl, but they were out and conversation came up with this, I believe it was a 9-year-old girl, about them having just adopted this family. And the 9-year-old girl was an orphan, and she said and just came out and asked this family point blank, would you adopt me? And they went home and they considered it, and they ultimately did. And she became a part of that family and had a loving home, and it completely changed her environment, completely changed her circumstances. And that story really struck a chord with me, because had she not asked, she wouldn't have been adopted by that family. She took the initiative and went and asked, and that because she persevered and she went out and she got what she wanted, her life changed. And I think that is so true with our relationship with God. We have not so many times because we ask not. We complain about our situation, and we think that God has forsaken us, and we don't really press. We don't, like that young girl, don't go in and ask for what we want, and are consistent with it. So I would like to ask you, those of you who are my subscribers and follow us on the Bible channel or the Bible study, or if you don't, it doesn't make any difference, to pray for Scout's family. And I know that there's a lot of people in need, and we can't help everyone. But I believe that God hears prayers, and I believe that if we continue to press into Him and to bring these things to Him, that He can change these circumstances for this family in a way that this may be an ultimate blessing. I don't know the mysterious way God works, but I do know that prayer works, and I do ask you to join me this week and this weekend. Gather your families together, or if you're single, and let's pray for Scout and his family, that he can save their house if that's God's will, and find something, a job, and to get his life back on track. I will be personally praying for you, Scout, and my family will as well, and I know that there'll be thousands of others too, and that I look forward to hearing from you, to see and to learn the great miracle that God has wrought in your family. So please join me in this, and God bless all of you. We'll see you guys in the next video.